As this conversation evolves, I want to start talking to you in terms of your camera. Hopefully the majority of you are using the Sony FS5. If not, you can apply these same principles to whatever camera you're using. Like I said, you might be using a DSLR, you might be using the Sony FS700, you might be using a Blackmagic camera. Really, this conversation is focusing on the lenses that you're using and the manner in which you want to attach your filtration. If you're starting off with the Sony FS5, like I have here, and you're using your kit lens, I just wanted to show you really quick how you can apply some of this stuff to your own camera at home if you want to start experimenting. I've got a 72mm ultraviolet filter, and basically this is a clear protective filter. The functionality of this filter primarily is to remove the ultraviolet haze that you get in some of your exterior daylight photographs, that sort of bluish tint, or that hazy humidity look in your backgrounds. This filter can cut through a lot of that. It's a subtle effect. So a lot of times when you buy a lens, particularly from your local camera store or from, say, B&H online or someone like that, they might recommend an ultraviolet filter to you simply as a protective measure for your lens, because it's, for the most part, a clear filter. It's not going to give you any demonstrative effects on flesh tones. It's not a colored filter. It's not anything like that. So as a protective measure, a lot of times this is a good idea. It's glass. And what it does is, for $15 or $20, protects the front of your kit lens, which is considerably more expensive if you have to replace it. And what I want to do is I want to just give this a quick clean. I use a cotton handkerchief specifically for this purpose. Just got to remember not to blow your nose into it. But if you keep it clean and keep it handy in your gear bag, the soft cotton cloth is as good as anything for cleaning off a filter really quickly. We use them all the time on Panavision lenses when I was a youngster in the camera department. And what I like to do is I'd buy a whole batch of brand new cotton cloths, and I'd run them through the laundry a bunch of times before I started using them, just to break down the fibers in the handkerchief. You don't want to use a brand new cotton handkerchief when you're cleaning a lens that's been multi-coated, because it is somewhat abrasive. But once they've been washed and the fibers have broken down a little bit and it's nice and pliable, they make a really soft, virtually scratch-free cleaning cloth, which is really handy to get dust off and things of that nature, fingerprints. You'll notice how I have a tendency to hold these filters on the edges. That's because I want to avoid touching the glass, not because it will damage the filter in any way, but you don't want your fingerprints in front of the lens. It might smear, and it might create some artifacts that are not pleasing or definitely not wanted in your images. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is a 72mm accessory size, and that just happens to be the accessory size of your Sony kit lens. So I'm going to remove the lens hood and show you how to apply this filter. This is called a Tulip lens hood, by the way, just as a sidebar. And these lens hoods were created after we spent a couple of generations using rubber collapsible hoods. I've got a couple here. And when we used to use lens hoods in the past, we'd get these rubber collapsible jobbies that just sort of thread on the front of your lens, and you pop them out when you needed a little bit of protection from the sun. This one happens to be a wide angle hood. But you notice how they're kind of round, and now that we're in the generation of 16:9 aspect ratios with our video, the round filters, we're doing a little bit of vignetting, which is you get a little bit of darkening in the corners of your image. And that's because your round accessories are not designed to accommodate 16:9, such a wide square aspect ratio. So this Tulip hood is cut out in the corners. If you look at it, it has the corners cut out of it so that The 16:9 aspect ratio can exist inside the confines of the lens hood, but you don't get any vignetting in the corners, okay? So that's why these hoods are shaped the way they are. But I'm going to put that aside for a second, and I'm just going to show you how the 72mm round filter just threads right on the front of the lens, just like that. And it screws on, and it protects the front element of your kit lens underneath, and then once you've got that applied, you can go ahead and pop your Tulip lens hood back on, just like that, and you're ready to go. So 72mm filters, right? You can get them in ultraviolet for protection. You can get them in circular polarizer. If you get a polarizer, you have to obviously turn the filter to see the effect. I'll show you a polarizer in a larger size in a few minutes. You can get filters for shooting under fluorescent lighting if you happen to be shooting in a bank or a department store or a supermarket where you've got fluorescent lights that you can't access and change out to photographically corrected tubes. You can just put a fluorescent filter like this one on the front of your lens and go in and shoot under fluorescent lighting with a green spike and correct all of that color information for the camera and have all your values balanced to white for whichever color channel you're on, 3200 or 5600. So that's 72mm in a round filter. And I just wanted to show you really quick, I have a Koken P Series. Koken comes in two sizes, P Series and A Series cut resin filters. And the A Series, it goes from, I believe it's 39mm up to 62mm accessory size. And if your lens exceeds 62mm, then you go to the P Series cut filter holder. And this series goes from 62, actually, you can overlap the series a little bit. I think these go down as far as 49 and as high as 82mm. So if you have some of the newer zoom lenses like, say, the Sigma 18-35, which is an 82mm accessory, you can go to Koken P Series and use their P Series cut film holder, filter holder. And let's show you, for instance, here is a, well, here's a neutral density filter. You'll be able to see that easily. This is ND2X, and in cut filter holders from Koken, they give you ND2X, ND4X, and ND8X. And 2X simply means twice the value of your ISO. So this is a one-stop neutral density filter, okay? Because we know twice the value of any ISO is 100% decrease in light that transmits through the filter. So that would make this a one-stop reduction filter, or an ND3 in a larger cut glass filter. So the idea is you take this resin filter, and there are 3 tracks in here. The first track is for a round polarizer because you need to turn your polarizer for the effect. And then the other 3 tracks in here are for your square resin filters, and you just pick a track. I like to go to the inside track first when I'm putting cut glass filters in a holder, so that as I add them, I'm stacking them in front. And I put the most important filter in the back, the one that I'm least likely to change. And then if I add filters in front of this, ND for instance, like a star filter or a warming filter, those will go in front, and if I decide I don't need them, I can pull them out a lot easier than trying to get in behind the ND, which is out in the front. And then all I have to do is, again, remove the Tulip lens hood, and I can thread this right on top of the ultraviolet filter that I've got on here already. So the ultraviolet filter, if it's acting as a protective filter, can stay on your lens forever, essentially. So I'm just going to screw this right on top. And this whole deal will turn on the lens adapter that's in there. And that's what it looks like. We can sort of center it up here, like so. Okay? Now, obviously, since we've done the Koken filter holder, we can no longer apply the Tulip lens hood. So you're either going to want to make sure that your grip friends can help you with some kind of a flag to keep the glare from the sun off of your filter, because that'll reflect really harshly and create possibly a flare. Or you can go with a Koken lens hood. I don't know if I have a P series right now. This is an A series Koken lens hood, and it's modular, so you can just get them and stack them, and you can apply them to your filter holder like so, and you get a Koken style lens hood to go over your filter holder. So that's a handy thing to do. But like I say, you know, involve your grip friends. Ask them for a lenser, a courtesy flag to protect your filter from glare. So that's how we can accommodate your kit lens. But let's say we want to take the next step in our cinematography and we want to move away from the kit lens and we want to go to something like Rokinon Cinema Series lenses, or we want to go to really professional cinema glass, or a cinema zoom. I've got a Tokina 11-16 cinema zoom here, made by the Tokina company, and you'll see that it has the focus gears, the f-stop gear, and the focal length gear incorporated into the barrel. We're going to talk about those in a different video covering cinema lenses, and the adapter necessary to go from Sony bayonet to, in this case, Canon EF. So we apply the adapter, and we can then attach this lens to our Sony camera. When we do that, we're going to be able to use some of the interesting cut glass filters that I've brought to show you. Let's remove the P series filter holder, and we'll put all of this stuff back so it doesn't get scratched up. That's the one thing you got to worry about more in particular with the resin filters than with the glass filters, is these are really easy to scratch. So you want to make sure you handle them on the edges. Be careful when you clean them, and when you're not using them, don't just set them down anywhere on set. Make sure you put them back in their filter holders, in the Koken, nice plastic filter holders, and protect those things, because once they get scratched, they're not going to be of much use to you, because you're going to see that artifact every time you try to use it. So we're talking about accessory sizes on the lenses. Now this is a Zeiss lens. This is a Carl Zeiss 85 planar 85 1.4 T-Star, and there's a serial number, but we don't have an accessory size, and it's not on the lens either. We have a variety of markings, but the accessory size is not one of them. If you have a lens like this that doesn't tell you what the accessory size is, look inside the lens cap, and you'll see, for instance, on this, this is my Zeiss 85-1.4. You see how I've actually put some nice P-Touch labels on there so that when the lenses are in the box, I know exactly what lens I'm pulling out. Well, on the inside of the lens cap, I'll try to get some light on it for you. You'll very often find the accessory information molded right into the plastic lens cap, and this happens to be 67 millimeter accessory size. That means the cap is mounting to the threads on the inside of the lens at 67 millimeters accessory. And so if I need a round filter, I need to make sure I buy a 67 millimeter round filter to fit this lens, or if I'm going with the Koken system, I need to make sure that I have a 67 millimeter accessory ring, which mounts in the holder like so. I have to make sure that this piece is 67 millimeters, so it will fit my my Zeiss lens. The same with the Rokinons. The Rokinons don't appear to be, the Rokinon is marked on the barrel here. Okay. This is also an 85 T1.5 from Rokinon. And the accessory is also posted on the inside of the Rokinon cap. It's down here and it's a little harder to see, but this one happens to be 72 millimeters. So you can find that information. either on the barrel of your lens or on the front retaining ring of the front lens grouping or on the inside of the lens cap. So look in one of those three places to get the information on what accessory sizes you need to start looking for as you build your collection. Okay. I also want to show you step-down rings. So let me grab those. Let me take a moment to grab those and show you a nest of accessory rings.